Hello, and welcome to Saints on Cinema. I'm Josh Edlow.
And I'm Tim Wild here in my new apartment. I'm set up.
Yay! Hopefully, we won't have any internet faux pas tonight. We'll see.
The internet should go okay.
Well, tonight we are doing something near and dear to my heart. We are going to be doing a Revelation episode for the new Creed 2 trailer. Now, for those of you who don't understand why Creed 2 is so exciting, it's because this is the continuation of the Rocky saga. Rocky now playing more of a supporting role for Apollo Creed's son. And this is very exciting. Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job in the original Creed. Tim and I actually went and saw Creed together when we were together. I think it was like 2 Thanksgivings ago, wasn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
So we actually went and saw.
I remember because I know who I was dating at the time. And she thought you were kind of a tool.
Well, I'm still around and she's not. So,
which was by her choice. So I don't know if that's a point for anything. Anyway.
So yeah. Now, anything you want to say before we dive right into the trailer?
Yes, I do. Okay. So first of all, just to be clear, I love Rocky. I'm very passionate about Rocky, and one of the
Here we go. Okay.
I just want to make this clear. One of the initial one of the things that inspired this channel in the first place was a few conversations that Josh and I had over the phone, very intense conversations about Rocky movies and decisions and some of the story that went on in these recent movies. And both of us are very passionate about it. And like Karate Kid, Josh is probably a little more, probably memorized it a little bit more in depth than I have. But I love Rocky. But I have to admit, this is a confession. I've only seen Creed that one time with you. I own it, and I liked it a lot, but I've never gone back and rewatched it.
Wow.
So that's something I need to do before we watch the new episode. But I do plan on doing that and atoning. But I'm not going to be totally clear. Let me tell you before we get into the video, to the new trailer, what I remember. Creed was he was his bastard son, right?
Illegitimate son.
Yeah, where Claire Huxtable adopted him. And playing Creed's wife, it wasn't the same actress as the original, and she took him on because he was getting into trouble. Apollo Creed died in Rocky IV, everyone knows that. And then she raised him, and he wanted to be a fighter. He went and tracked down Rocky, convinced Rocky to train him, and then Rocky did. Then Rocky, if I remember, was diagnosed with cancer.
Yes, all of that. Okay. Now, also a couple other things we have to understand about Rocky as we go into Creed 2, and that is that from Rocky Balboa on, Rocky's life kind of starts becoming void of meaning. He's lost everybody close to him. He's lost now. I mean, in Creed, we find out that Paulie, the last of the original supporting characters, for the most part, is gone. So Rocky is all alone with these new characters, particularly Adonis Johnson, who then becomes Adonis Creed, who is Apollo Creed's illegitimate son, as we discussed. And
what about the only one I could remember? What about the trainer, the bald guy?
No, trainer's
Apollo's trainer.
Well, I don't know if he's dead, but he's not a part of the movie. His son is taking over the training facility that Apollo was training at. So,
but he wasn't in Creed, right? The bald guy.
The bald guy was not. No. He was not in Creed. The father was not in Creed, but the younger. His son was in Creed. It's the guy who played, I can't remember his name, but he plays the main African-American character in Remember the Titans. And I can't remember his name. So,
yeah, everyone else is gone. Yeah. Okay.
So everyone else is gone. And so Rocky is in a very pathetic stage of life.
But he's still got his restaurant. He's fine. He just doesn't have everyone in his life.
Okay, he's not fine if he's not willing to fight cancer. He wanted to die. He was tired of dealing with it.
He misses Adrian.
He misses everybody. He's depressed. Okay. This is obviously another conversation for another time. We have to actually react to the trailer before we start going into this. So, without further ado, let's watch the trailer. 1, 2, 3.
We got this. You heard me?
In the ring, you got rules. Outside, we got nothing. Life hits you with all these cheap shots. People like me, we live in the past. You got people that need you now. Hey. You got everything to lose. This guy's got nothing to lose.
I ain't got a choice.
That's the same thing your father said, and he died right here in my hands. Listen to me, this guy is dangerous.
But you don't think I could beat him? I was afraid I couldn't live up to these expectations.
I got loyalty inside my DNA.
You don't think you got your validation?
I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got brother peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA.
I want to rewrite history.
Don't pretend this is about your father.
I was born like this, is born like this. Immaculate conception, I transform like this, perform like this. Wish out you a new weapon. I don't contemplate, I meditate. Then off your bed. This that put the kids to bed. This that I got.
It may not seem like it now, but this is more than just a fight.
Loyalty. My DNA.
Huh.
Wow.
Well, a couple of things I forgot about.
What did you forget about?
Okay. Well, I forgot it was Drago. I forgot it was Drago's son. And I remember them talking about that in some of the news about it early on, and that's awesome. Did you notice, by the way, how much he looked like Carl Weathers? In that one shot right before he walked down. Did he even have a mustache in the first movie? In Creed?
I don't know if he had a mustache per se.
It wasn't as bushy. He looked just like Carl Weathers. I'm gonna put a picture here and here.
If I recall from the first movie, he's got a goatee, but it's not a mustache like Carl Weathers.
Yeah, now he looked just like his shape of his jaw and everything. He looked just like him. That was cool.
He also looks a little bit beefier. Like he looks like he's beefed up a little bit. In the first movie, he looked a little skinnier toned, muscular. This time he looks, like a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You can tell he's been bulking. So I'm thinking this is a year and a half later. Don't know if he was married or just has a kid. He may have just had a kid, but they weren't just the same girlfriend from the first one, right?
This is the same girlfriend. He's got a kid now, so it had to have been at least a year later. It appears like he's had some success, and it looks like he's had some failure too. I mean, first thing you see is him on the ground and waking up in the hospital, though I don't know if that was coming up from the hospital from the actual from the fight that we saw in the first one, though I doubt it. It looked like more of a loss, kind of akin to Rocky 3 with Rocky's loss to Mr. T, but I don't know. So there's some loss there. There's also some. It seems like he's done a little bit better. Seems like he's had some success. You see him standing over somebody. So
did he have a title at the end of Creed? Who did he fight? The fight was awesome. I don't remember who he fought.
Yeah, he fought the guy who was the champion, who was about to be going away for some time in prison for something he had done outside the ring, and this was his last fight. He lost the fight. But then the guy came to him and said, "You're the future of this division," and so there's that. Also, I noticed that he's doing a lot of his training with the son of Duke, who's Apollo's trainer.
Right.
Part 4. So
it seems to me like they're just taking it started with Rocky 1, the first Creed. And they're brushing past Rocky 2, where you see him come out and become the champ again. And they're going right into Rocky 3/4, where there's like a real threat and he's got to determine if it's worth it. And his loved one, which in this case is Rocky, is telling him, you may not be able to win, and I don't want to support you potentially dying and getting and losing everything. That's the kind of the subtle thing in Rocky 3 and 4 was that same story.
I thought it was really interesting that Rocky seems to be kind of taking on an Adrian role in Rocky 4, right? Like it was Adrian who told Rocky that she didn't think he could win. And here, Rocky doesn't actually answer him in the trailer, but he's kind of intimating like, you don't want to do this. And I love the dichotomy that you're seeing between Apollo and Adonis. You know, Apollo, and the kind of a theme throughout this whole movie that seems throughout this whole series that seems to be very prevalent, that was really brought to life in part 4, but is really in all of the Rocky movies, is that certain people are fighters and you can't change that. It's in their DNA. Rocky says that in part 2 when he's going to have to fight Apollo again. He says, don't ask me to stop being a man. Apollo says it in part 4 when they're in there, when they're watching the first fight, and he says, I don't want to change. I like who I am. The warrior can't. If the warrior doesn't have a war to fight, then he might as well be dead, and he ends up being dead. He ends up dying in the ring. So you're seeing also that Adonis seems to be cut from the same cloth as Apollo, much to the chagrin of his. I guess it's not his mom, but his foster mom, Apollo's wife, and also to Rocky. And Rocky's trying to teach him like he doesn't have to do this, but obviously he does because he's going to fight Drago. One thing I wish they would have seen more of, you only get a glimpse of him. I want to see how much bigger he is than Adonis Creed, because that was the big thing about Dolph Lundgren. He was so much bigger than both of them, especially Rocky. I mean, he was. But
I wonder if the political things can get thrown into this as well, or if it's just a grudge match, because that was that whole thing with the Soviet Union and the drugs and all that stuff was all part of Drago's character, which is why that led into Apollo's patriotism in his fight, but it was all his ego. It had nothing to do with his patriotism. But I just wonder if that's going to be any aspect in this, or if it's just like a grudge match.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, and it seems like I'm wondering if Drago is actually involved in boxing. I mean, because it seemed like Ivan Drago in part 4 was just entering into the professional boxing arena in part 4. He had never had a professional fight before. It had just been amateur fights in the Soviet Union.
And they said a line like they just wanted to be taken seriously. Wasn't that one of the lines at the press conference?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, they wanted to show that they could compete. That's what they were making it sound like.
Yeah.
In there. So this one, I'm curious to find out if he is again just kind of entering into the professional arena, or if he's been around, or if he's the champion. If they know more about him than they did Ivan Drago. I want to know how much Ivan Drago is going to be in this movie. I know that they've been talking about Dolph Lundgren preparing to be involved in the movie, so I'm hoping that he is. That would be awesome. They're playing with my nostalgia here, and if there's anything that the Cobra Kai series taught us, it's that you can do nostalgia really, really well, and they've done really well. This is a continuation of the Rocky story in a different way, which I love. Creed was a great homage to Rocky and can carry its own weight, just like Cobra Kai can. So I have faith that this could end up being good. And so
I didn't give it enough credit. Creed, even though I only saw it the first time with you, I just haven't gotten around to it. But it was an amazing handoff to the next part of the story, the next chapter that's going to close the door on Balboa eventually, possibly in this movie. But it was really great. It was really well shot. And I think the clips in this one, I haven't looked at the director if it's the same director or anything, but the cinematography and the way the footage around in the little bit we saw of the training and teeny bit of the fight looks similar to Creed. And I like that a lot better than I liked Rocky Balboa. I know you loved Rocky Balboa. I wasn't as big of a fan of that one. But I'm optimistic about this for that reason. for nostalgia, Drago's wife, Red Sonja, whatever her name is, the actress, the one that she was the Olympic swimmer, if I remember. Right. I don't know if she's gonna be in it because she is awesome. Mostly because I love Red Sonja, but she's awesome.
She was a great character in the movie and very much a big part of it. Mainly because Drago didn't have any lines at all. She was
she was his voice. She really was. She was his public relations as well, not just because she cared about him. I mean, that was his connection to everything. Everything was out of her and the manager guy, whoever he was, just the comrade or whatever.
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions coming into this and how it's all going to play out. Rocky seems to suggest that this guy has just as much killing power as Ivan Drago did. I'll be interested to find out if they reference the brain damage that Rocky allegedly suffered in Rocky V.
Allegedly.
Because in Rocky VI, they gave him a license and he passed all the tests. How is it that at 58 years old or whatever, he can pass the test, but they wanted to get him out didn't give him a boxing license?
Oh, I know the answer to this. The answer is because Rocky Balboa was stupid.
That is not the answer. Rocky Balboa was excellent, actually. And also, if you know anything about concussion protocol, that is possible. But
I don't. I just know about what movie of those 6 of them was not my favorite at all. And 5 was not the worst Rocky movie. But go ahead.
Okay. This is like I'm making all. You can't say that. Rocky V is clearly the worst of all the Rockies by far.
Rocky V was far more interesting and exciting than Rocky Balboa.
Oh my gosh. Someone please and tell Tim how wrong he is. Rocky V, though a good movie by all stretches of the imagination, is the worst of all the Rocky movies. Period. The end. It's not even a question. It's a good movie. It's still very entertaining. I like watching it, but it's not as good as Rocky Balboa. I would say Rocky Balboa is one of the better of the Rockies. So
but the thing is your favorite is Rocky, the first one. Yes. I think Rocky, the first one, is a phenomenal movie if you're watching a drama, but it is definitely not the most entertaining or exciting Rocky movie.
It's not the most exciting Rocky movie, but it is the most well done of all the Rocky movies.
Yeah, it's a film, but I'm talking about nostalgia and entertainment value. It is definitely not even. Yeah, it's not the most entertaining movie. Sure. Balboa was like it, but all it was like there's a bunch of meat hooks. See what I did there? Meat hooks in the original movie. That's it. If you took out the original movie, the Rocky Balboa had nothing.
I can't believe you would even say any of this. So anyway, back to Creed 2 before and Saints on Cinema divulges into being split forever.
Like I said, this kind of conversation, in fact, it may have been this very conversation about Creed and the cancer. That's what it was. That stirred out this whole thing. But go ahead.
Sure. And I still do believe, and you guys, whoever's watching this can agree with me or disagree with me, but I do think that here Rocky does need to die, and he should have died in Rocky Balboa. But then we wouldn't have Creed, and we wouldn't be talking about this awesome movie. So I guess maybe he shouldn't have. But really, he needs to pass away, and he should have died in the ring. But anyway, he should have died in Rocky V, really. But
no, that would have been horrible.
That was the way it was originally written. And
that doesn't mean anything. I can tell you all kinds of things about how Star Wars was originally written. That doesn't mean it was a better decision.
Probably was. But anyway, so Creed 2, I think, is going to be an excellent movie. I love Michael B. Jordan in this character. And I'm interested to see whether they do any sort of throwbacks to Apollo Creed in any way in this. I'm looking at the Easter eggs. I did notice that there was the boxing glove appeared to be, if I'm not mistaken, the Russian flag as it is now. You see the pictures of the gloves that I think Drago must be punching with. Those are the Russian flags now. So that's nice. So maybe there will be that political part of this as well.
Which would be really, really topical right now. That'd be really interesting.
Oh, wow. It would. And it'll be interesting to see if they do that, because this political climate is so much different than it was in the early 90s or late 80s when Rocky IV came out.
Very heated in different ways right now, but I think it's just as intense as it was back then.
And hopefully they steer clear of politics for that reason, because I'm getting tired of Hollywood and politics in general. But I think that this is going to be an awesome movie. I'm excited. It's coming out right around Thanksgiving, so I know I will be at the first showing on the first day, probably by myself, because no one else will go that early. But I have done that for every movie, so every Rocky movie.
Okay. Well, Josh and I are very excited about it. Tell us what you think in the comments below.
Yes, please do. And tell Tim how wrong he is about Rocky Balboa, because that is an abomination to anybody who would call themselves a Rocky fan.
And that movie was an abomination to... No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't horrible. I think Creed was much better than Rocky Balboa. And I'm sure you'd agree with that too, but I don't know. I guess the bigger question is Rocky, the original, better than the rest? And we do have a top 7 Rocky movie list that will happen someday, and that will be one of our most controversial discussions ever.
And considering that there are only 7 Rocky movies when you include the original Creed, it's really just ranking them.
Yeah, that's my point. That's going to be the controversial part, is putting them in the right order. I wonder if we'll have any of them on the same numbers, but we'll see. Anyway, Creed 2 is going to be awesome. Tell us what you think.
All right. Well, for Saints on Cinema, I'm Josh Edlow.
And I am Tim Wild.
Thanks.
See you later, guys.